goody goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Kyneton, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, Lane Woolscroft.
How we doing, everybody?
No, John.
It's so quiet. It's so quiet. I don't know. This doesn't feel right. I know you guys did it without me last time, and now we're without John this time, man. Like,
and you really wanted to be part of that Infinity War discussion last time.
I really did, but man, like, we just bought a house, and both of my jobs are on fire, and man, like, so when are we just selling out and cashing out, and this is all that we do? Because, like, I'm down. I'm ready. We have merch.
We do have merch.
Can the man just like buy us?
I'm glad you mentioned merch.
Always.
Because that leads into my merch plug.
But like, I want to talk more in detail about how I want to sell out.
I know. Okay, well, let's sell out a little bit right now by talking about our awesome TeePublic store.
Woo, woo, buy a t-shirt.
If you've seen us on social media and you came to our live show, you saw that we had awesome, cool, Cinema Psycho Show shirts. You can get those at our TeePublic store. You can actually peruse the many different types of graphics that are available. Things. And you can use the coupon code PsychosNation, all one word, lowercase. You get 25% off your purchase.
Sweet.
It's a great deal, honestly. We wish we had that coupon code when we bought our shirts.
I know. I would have liked that, but I paid full price.
You did. But anyway, we're on episode 102.
Yeah.
And this episode's going to be really cool. We've got an interview lined up with a friend of mine that I've known for, over about 11 years. Tony Wash of Scotchworthy Productions, a Chicago-based horror filmmaker who's got 3 different feature films coming out they're coming out this year, as well as a bunch of other projects. He's known for his short film, The Muck, which was featured at South by Southwest a couple years back, as well as Screamfest. He's also the curator behind World of Death, which is a long-running web series on bloodydisgusting.com that takes horror films from across the world and basically shows them. And it is really an honor to have him on the show and really to get his perspective on filmmaking, his own journey as a filmmaker, some of the perils, the pitfalls, and successes that go along the way. So we're going to have that lined up after our news bit that, Lane, you've got this one, and it's a sad one.
It is a sad one. So,
especially for us Pittsburghers. Yeah,
so local news, it was announced today that Pittsburgh Filmmakers is actually not going to offer fall classes anymore at their Melwood facility, and there are plans to sell the Oakland building. It's a shame. I interned there in 2006, and then I came back for a sound class that the 3 of us took, including John, for our graduate degree. And there was an announcement today. Back when I was interning, they were in the beginning of starting their partnership of Pittsburgh Filmmakers and Pittsburgh Center of the Arts. It has been suggested. Brian, you were right on this. But there's also been other articles in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that, this merger was kind of what started the fiscal problems.
So I was right?
Yeah, it's an article right here that said, that it started, that's sort of the issue.
Yeah,
possibly. I can't speak too much to that, but there isn't a lot of information right now in general. Pittsburgh Filmmakers Facebook page is business as usual. There's no mention of this, but the building is for sale. They actually purchased it in '98 for $1.2 million. So just perversely curious to know exactly what it's going to sell for. I'm super sad. I mean, I had really good experiences there. I think it was a great resource for local artists.
Did you have film screened there?
Yeah.
I think you filmed your thesis.
That's where my thesis. That's where my thesis screened. Actually, I got a First Works grant when we were in graduate school, and I absolutely could not have finished that film without that money. I've always been very grateful to filmmakers because they, they made my thesis possible. in graduate school, I ran out of money. I was broke.
I think we all were broke. I know I was living on Hot Pockets for a while.
Yeah. I never would have finished the film because I mean, it was a nice chunk of change, and it covered, the travel to, for me to talk to Cynthia Bulick for my thesis. She's down in North Carolina. Couldn't have done it without that money. But the director of Pittsburgh Filmmakers, John Canteen, who's a very, very kind man and a man definitely like a champion of the arts, I would say. His position as the director has been eliminated now. Now they're going to ride out the rest of the summer with the classes, and he will be finishing the year. And then, I guess the whole deal, as faculty. But there's, there's still some unanswered questions, they're saying that they're going to at least offer the classes to complete like any certificate students that are already enrolled. Right. So like everybody that's in the pipeline, people always say that the pipeline, they're going to try to get those people out, get them finished and everything. Now, that's a few, I think, started in the spring. And there is going to be a new renovated space at Pittsburgh Center of the Arts starting next spring. But there won't be any full semester fall classes because they're just really basically restructuring the entire organization. The only thing that we really don't know is, there's 3 Pittsburgh Filmmakers theaters here in the city.
Yes.
The building, the warehouse is going to be for sale on Melwood. Not a lot of speculation yet. This just came out today, but not a lot of speculation yet on what the building would be bought for, or if they're going to get rid of the theater, or if someone may purchase the theater. There's been some questions I know about the Regent Square one, because that's over in the East End, and that's had some tough times come on to it as well. It closed for a little bit last year, early this year, and recently reopened, but it's showing far fewer films than in the past. But then too, I don't know what this means for the Harris Theater either, because that one's owned by the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. So a lot of moving parts, but I don't know, man. Like everything is just GD tire fire. Like I just feel like the world is terrible and like everything is just awful. I don't know. Like this is a bummer. Like I cannot come to a positive like consensus on something like this. This is a huge blow, I think, to the indie film community, just of resources.
I was going to say that. Like honestly, I saw this today, and I a lot of my friends on Facebook, PJ Gaynard, was one who
I saw it from Nina Gibbs,
who championed it and said, this was a sad day for any filmmaker in the city. And it really is. Mainly, I looked at it from the standpoint of that was a great collective of resources. Filmmaking is a very expensive art.
Sure.
It is more expensive than painting, sculpture, any of the other ones you could think of.
It's so much equipment, and the equipment's always changing.
Equipment, and the equipment is always changing. Mm-hmm. There's and the ability to get that equipment is the struggle. Either you own it or you rent it. Mm-hmm. And renting, even though it's cheaper than owning, is still expensive.
Very.
And one of the nice things I liked about filmmakers was that if you were continually making work, not even necessarily commercial work, although they did have a thing they could work with you on that. But if you're continually making work and you had a full membership that was worth about $350 a year, that you pretty much had access to
that's
everything.
For $350 a year, that's nothing.
A year.
That's nothing. That was just such a great resource and such a, a great advantage for the indie filmmakers of the region. And too, just like you said, a great collective of people as well. Yeah. And I feel like an asshole because I don't remember our audio professor's name.
I don't remember his name.
But he was so nice.
He was very nice guy.
Very knowledgeable. I don't want that to gloss over oh, he was nice. No, he knew his shit.
He did.
But he also was in a film as an actor for us, and he let us borrow some props. Because John was just doing a film outside of class, outside of anything. He just wanted to do a film. And I think his name was Tim. I think the guy's first name was Tim. But he ended up he offered to help us with the props, and then he was in it. That's someone who's passionate about it. Right. And I feel like so much of the staff was like that. I was, when I was an intern there, I worked for Joe Morrison, who then I ended up running into again through Friends of the Hollywood. Yeah. Back when the Hollywood was cool and not bought by.
This is a really shitty year in terms of things that we love that get.
Listen, my professor from undergrad for film died 2 years after we graduated. So I just feel like my filmmaking career is just this trail of ash where I just can't go back to where I've been. So revel in the misery with me, my friend. I'm marinating in it like a good steak.
Yeah.
Everything is
terrible.
But
I mean, it was really depressing to see this news.
I know. I felt sick.
I don't know. They haven't said what the status is going to be of that membership, of the equipment, or anything like that.
No.
The only silver lining is, hey, well, the building's gone, but his filmmaker's gone. And I think that's the key here. Is his filmmaker's gone? Now, I know that they struggled to handle a lot of the universities that were developing their own programs.
Right.
For me, when I was first going into undergrad, I had looked at Robert Morris and I looked at Point Park. And one of the reasons I did not choose Point Park was because of the fact that they did run their programs out of filmmakers, and that they required that as a student you had to pay for 2 tech fees.
Sure. And it's two facilities.
I understand it, but at the same time, it's I'm trying not to kill myself with loans.
Of course.
And ultimately I did end up going with Robert Morris because they did have their own in-house stuff. But when we were in grad school, I did get to experience filmmakers and I got to see what they have available.
Yeah.
And, part of me regrets not, going to Point Park at that point and supporting them. I get it. But I think they struggled with a lot of these universities that were basically doing stuff in-house and not using their facilities. I think they also struggled with the fact that a lot of filmmaking can be done now digitally.
Sure.
And, they really got their start doing things analog, doing things with actual film stock.
Well, one of the things that I did when I was an intern there was they had, there's only so many of these machines in the world. It was called a video work printer.
Yep.
And it was, taking, sorry, I'm tired. Super 8 and digitizing it, because that's one of the projects that they had them do at the time.
It's an optical printer, basically.
Yeah. And it was crazy because, the way you would set it up is you could then, take it onto DVD and it was, a little bit of restoring. And I remember at the time they had opened it to civilians, I guess I'll say. I did in-house ones for the students to process them, but then they had some archiving clients as well. And I was in a small room because it had to be totally dark. And that was when I realized that you needed good ventilation for film cleaner.
Dude, were you getting high off of that film cleaner?
I felt really funny and I was like, what the hell is going on? And I was by myself. So, that whole summer I was in my own head a lot. And
wow.
You get weird thoughts or whatever. And then I realized oh no, that's not just the thoughts. Something's horribly wrong. I have to open the door. But that was one of the things that I did there. And that was kind of what sparked my love of, archiving and preservation of digital media and, as it relates to, physical media. So,
it's tough.
And to the cafe, the awesome vegan cafe, Lilliput, I think. I never knew how to say it, but the food always smelled so good.
Who ran that cafe was cool.
Bless his heart. He's the nicest.
He was the nicest guy.
So,
that was the first time I ever tried hummus.
Oh, no way, really?
Uh-huh.
That's so funny.
I was working on my undergrad film professor's.
Yeah.
She was making a movie about. I should know this. It was a Spanish dance, and it's not clicking because
merengue salsa.
No, not that.
Okay.
But either way, I was kind of PAing on it,
right?
And we were in the studio. Because they had this massive green screen room, and we were shooting there, and we broke for lunch, and he was like, "Oh, I got the hummus," and I'm like, "What is hummus?"
Wow!
And that was the first time I tried it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! What is this? Oh, it's chickpea! Holy shit!"
Yeah, right.
That was the first time I ever tried hummus. Was at Pittsburgh Filmmakers.
That's so funny. But yeah, a sad day for Pittsburgh. One of many because everything's on fire. What?
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Not to be a bummer. We have a great show.
We do.
We have a great interview today. So really excited to talk to Tony. So. I don't know, guys.
We're going to jump over to that pre-recorded interview that we got.
And support the arts, guys.
Support the arts.
We just see these institutions closing, and we really gotta support the arts and keep them alive,
Definitely.
especially here. So
Definitely.
Do you like the solar system?
Yeah, it's quite cool, planets and stuff.
And now joined with us is our featured interview, Tony Wash of Scotchworthy Productions. I've known Tony a long time, and it seems to always be that there's a film that he has coming up, or I'm doing a podcast. The last time him and I really conversed about movies was when I was part of Dagger Vision Films Horror Talk Radio a couple years ago. But I've known him since 2007, right?
I guess that's what we established.
We established that we have gray hairs and beards now since we last hung out.
I still don't have a beard.
No, you still don't have a beard.
I'm good.
That's a good thing, Wayne.
That's a good thing. But Tony, you have been very busy from what it looks like since we last spoke. You've got a new feature coming out. You've been part of, am I correct in this, 2 anthology films? You did The Chop and then World of Death?
No.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Correct.
Incorrect.
I'm incorrect.
I have 3 features coming out this year. And then I have, and then World of Death is a web series that I curate, along with my partner, Jim Peterson. And that runs through bloodydisgusting.com. Okay. So that's a weekly episodic web series. We feature short horror films from around the world. So it's basically just a community of independent filmmakers that we've collected over the years. We've been running World of Death now since pretty much 2013, the tail end of 2013. And we went public with it in 2016. With Bloody Disgusting, and we're today episode 174 aired.
Wow!
So wow,
it's pretty cool. We've got over 400 filmmakers involved. We represent more than 40 countries with work, and it's been quite the undertaking over the years, but it's proved to be a pretty awesome, if nothing else, just a cool experience to network with other filmmakers and just kind of get our names out there a little bit. So.
Very cool. Now, would you say doing this curating process? I know that I've curated films for film festivals. I've done that sort of thing. Do you find that you grow as a filmmaker through the process of curating other people's work? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that everything you do is a growing process. If you're involved in something, it's educating you in some way, whether it be good or bad. You're learning what not to do, or you're improving what you are doing. And so I think that just as much as watching a movie or watching a show is educational. I mean, shit, we can write that off on our taxes. Our Netflix.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, so because it's considered educational. So yeah, I definitely think it's helped. I don't know if I'd say it's made me a better filmmaker necessarily. I think it's motivated me to work harder at just being a better representative of myself and of my work.
Right.
Because I look at the other talent that's out there, and when I feel like when I made It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To, back when you and I first met.
Still love that movie.
10, 11 years ago. Thank you. I appreciate that. But it's like, I feel like when I made that, it wasn't a dime a dozen. There weren't very many independent films out there. And now all of a sudden, anybody can make an independent movie, and everybody does. And so it's harder to stand out. But not only is it harder to stand out, it's also like there's just so many more awesome movies out there. And that's one of the cool things about World of Death is, like I said, the networking. I have met so many amazingly talented filmmakers over the last couple of years curating this web series that it's really, it's not only humbled me in the sense of just being a filmmaker myself and seeing how much stuff out there, in my opinion, looks better than what I think my team creates.
Right.
As much as I love what my team creates, and I think that we can hold a candle as well. But at the end of the day, you look at some of the stuff that these people are doing, and it's just like, holy shit! Where did you come up with the means to do this? Let alone the idea,
Right.
You know? But that being said, to answer your initial question, I don't necessarily think it makes me a better filmmaker firsthand, but what it does is it makes my stuff better in the sense of we've actually collaborated with filmmakers that we met through World of Death on our movies. Yeah, we one example in particular, probably the most pertinent and the most involved, was there's a animator in England named Chris Younce, and incredibly talented claymation animator. And for High on the Hog, which is my second feature, that's the one starring Sid Haig. That's the exploitation kind of grindhouse movie. There's a part in it where a girl does some drugs and has a bad trip. And so the thought was, let's bring this dude in to create an entire sequence of her bad trip.
Oh, wow.
And so it's pretty badass because it goes from normal movie to all of a sudden we are the smoke getting sucked into her mouth, down her lungs, you know, and then poisoning her body with the drug that she's, you know, smoking. And then it kind of goes from there and just goes absolutely batshit haywire. So it's cool.
That's really interesting. I mean, I know that any sort of networking you do, I mean, it sounds like for you that doing World of Death has opened doors with creative people that you wouldn't have normally met through your own inner circle. And it's really happy to help you with that. I know for me, I know for Elaine, you know, doing our podcast has done the same sort of thing. We've met really talented people, and just networked with them to, you know, get like them almost in our Rolodex of awesome people that we could one day pull up and be like, hey, I've got this idea for a movie, or another project. Do you want to get involved? That sort of thing.
Or even just like bouncing ideas off of other people and being like, hey, like this is what I'm thinking about and I'm kind of stuck. Like, you know, what are your thoughts? Like, it's nice to have those kind of resources. And what you're doing with the film, you know, with the mixing of medias, I love that, you know, having, you know, two different kinds of visual medium together.
Thanks. And yeah, I definitely think that that's the case. But you do have to be wary because you never know who's going to steal your idea. And, you know, true. I'm a very trustworthy person, unfortunately, to a fault. You know, this industry in particular is an industry where you really can't afford to be overly trusting of people until they earn your trust.
Right.
And I've been burned on multiple occasions, unfortunately, as has my team. And so you do have to be careful. But I think more often than not, it is more of a positive situation where you can, you know, communicate and like you said, spitball ideas with people. I mean, we've, you know, Brad Miska and Tom Owen, who run Bloody Disgusting and you know, produced the VHS trilogy and Southbound. One of the things that we've been discussing is the potential of, because we're looking to evolve World of Death. I don't know if ultimately, and this is kind of the first time publicly stating this.
Oh my God, I got exclusive. Whoa!
Whoa! I don't know if we're planning on continuing the current platform of World of Death as a weekly episodic web series through YouTube.
Okay.
It's just we're not getting the viewership that we'd hoped for, and ultimately it doesn't get promoted all that much. You know, nobody really has the time. So because of that, it's developed a great community, and it gives filmmakers the opportunity to showcase their work on Bloody Disgusting, which is one of the world's largest avenues for horror, as most people should know if they're fans of the genre. But, you know, we're looking to evolve it in some respect, and part of that is the potential of taking these people and whether it's elaborating on their short to a feature length or just collaborating with them and creating other feature length works. That's something that, you know, hopefully down the road would be an actual thing that we would be doing, which not only is fostering talent, but it's just bringing together, people who would not have met one another otherwise, unless you're at like a film festival together or something.
Right. I know that YouTube, and we've talked about YouTube before, that in recent years they've really, gone away from supporting independent filmmakers and really supporting anything that is not G and not like video game, videos. I mean, I have 3 stepsons. This is how long we haven't done. I have 3 stepsons now. And that's all they watch are these dumb YouTube gaming videos where it's like, why don't you just, like, back in the day, we just played the game, And
oh, totally.
That's all we did was we played the game. We didn't need to watch someone playing the game.
Or we watched each other. I mean, like you'd be in the same room at least.
Or you would take turns sharing the game. And it just seems that the monetization of those videos is almost the priority for YouTube over anything that is creative, and especially things that are in the horror genre.
Well, I look at it, and I think it's ultimately what gets. It's not necessarily even YouTube promoting it, because if it's popular, YouTube's going to promote it, and I can't blame them for acting that way, because they're going to promote what's going to make them more money. The problem I have is that the way that our society is, in my opinion, because my nephew's the same way. He's 10 years old. We were down in Florida last year, a family vacation, and he spent more time sitting on my brother's phone watching Minecraft videos on YouTube.
I know, right?
Than he did sitting outside at the pool even. And it's like, dude, like you're 10 years old. Go out and get into some mischief, and it bothers me, because as a creative creator, it's very disheartening when you see a dumbass post a video about, I said this the other day, because actually Bloody Disgusting had gotten flagged because one of the World of Death videos had some, obscene content in it, because they're horror films.
That's what horror films are.
That's what they are. There's violence. There's profanity. Sometimes there's nudity or sex. I mean, my short film in World of Death has nudity in it and violence, obviously. And so, we got flagged because one of our videos got flagged. And so we had to kind of go through and cycle out some of the movies that might be too obscene, but yet you can go and find girls doing P90X in their panties, and it's got 40 million views.
Yeah.
And it just aggravates me because, again, we're putting time and effort and money and talent into these things. And then you get these people who just set up a camera or do screenshots of them playing Call of Duty, or again, half-naked girls sitting in front of the camera. And I'm a dude. I love looking at half-naked girls just like the next guy. But at the end of the day, I feel like they deserve to get 40,000 subscribers and 40 million views on a video when all they got to do is take their shirt off? Like, no, that's bullshit.
So, Tony, I mean, do you think that things are kind of lost for YouTube in that vein, or do you think there's anything that creators or artists can do at this point to kind of turn the tide, or do you think it's a lost cause?
I don't think it's a lost cause by any means. I think that the way society is now and the way people consume content, there is an avenue for anything and everything, and there should be an avenue for anything and everything, because that's what the internet is. If you want it, you've got it at your fingertips. You just got to search for a few minutes, But I don't think that YouTube is the proper platform. I tried combining those words. The proper platform. I don't think the platform. I don't think that. I don't think that
You're welcome.
Now I got to think about what I'm going to say.
Sorry.
No. I'm thinking of platypus now. I'm like, all right. So I don't think that YouTube is the proper platform for independent artists necessarily, like specifically filmmakers, people who are producing what I would consider quality content. And my opinion's worth a grain of salt in the grand scheme of things, obviously. But, we shoot our movies on a Red camera, on a Red Dragon. That's a 6K camera. My cinematographer has over $100,000 in camera equipment alone. And so it's like, for him to be putting that video, to put a video up there that we shot on a camera with that kind of money put into it, versus, again, a trio of girls who just take their clothes off in their living room and do calisthenics in their underwear. It's like with shooting it on their iPhone. I mean, it's just an entirely different scope.
Right.
And so I understand that that's going to be more popular. And if that is, there's nothing we can do about it. So be it. But what we need to do is find a way to evolve. And, I almost think the problem more lies in the distribution of independent work, because you fall in this really crappy, rock and a hard place of, if you're making low budget content, and when I say low budget, I'm talking about, sub $250,000.
Right.
Okay. At this point, people consider low budget $5 million. And I'm like,
that's not low budget.
That's insane.
That's not low budget.
But that's what they consider low budget. And I mean, that's what Blumhouse created his empire off of, all these $4 million films. But even $500,000, if I had $500,000 to make a movie, you better damn believe it's going to look good, it's going to sound good, and everybody's going to be happy because we all got paid making it.
Right.
Of course.
But you look at these people who, such as myself, who, we're producing films at the sub $500,000 level, and that doesn't involve sweat equity. I mean, the amount of people who are putting work into my movies for no money or little money, it far surpasses a $1.5-2 million budget.
Right.
But since we have so much sweat equity, as I said, my cinematographer, all the equipment we have between the team and everything, we're making movies for, you might anywhere from $50,000 to, $300,000, $400,000, and which I'm really proud of the fact that we've gotten to that level. But when you're making a movie at that level, it's difficult to attract name talent, and name talent is ultimately what sells a film. Name talent is ultimately nowadays what gets you into a film festival. And so if you are fortunate enough to make a great movie or have an awesome idea that is low budget, look at Blair Witch, for example. And granted, that was 20 years ago. Can you fucking believe that was 20 years ago already?
It hurts me, actually.
I actually hate that movie with a passion. Like the Blair Witch Project.
Don't get Brian started.
You've already got the train. The train's out of the station there. But
Darn it.
For me, and I've said this on the show, and I've actually caught flack from listeners about it.
Yeah.
But I just feel that the Blair Witch, while it was revolutionary for its time, really isn't scary at all. Like I saw that when it came out, and I didn't get what the big deal was. I just felt that the Blair Witch Project had a brilliant marketing ploy.
Totally.
Like it was a brilliant marketing ploy. But is it a good movie? No.
Well, love or hate it. I mean,
That's
it's hard to
just me,
believe
though.
it's 20 years old. I'm sorry, Tony. What was the point you were making, though?
Well, and I don't want to digress too much either, but like, you have a point, Brian, and I think it affected everybody differently. I mean, I went and saw that. I want to say that was that 98 or 99. I don't remember.
That was 99. 99.
Okay, so I was a freshman in college. I believe that came out the summer. So I remember we went and saw it during summer break from college, and it was like a group of my guy friends went and saw this movie, and some of our girlfriends, and the girls all went and saw another movie because they'd already seen it.
Yeah.
And they had seen it at a small Chicago theater when the rumor was still that it was true. You know,
right.
that the footage was real. And so then it all of a sudden went to all the multiplexes, and we went and saw it at an AMC. And I shit you not, my 19-year-old friend, had one of my other 19-year-old friends walk him into his parents' house and turn the lights on with him because after the movie he was that terrified.
I mean, sometimes something gets under your skin. You never know. I mean, after I saw it, I didn't want to go camping for a couple days. I mean, I got over it, but I didn't really want to go camping.
And I agree with you, Lane. Like, I'm an Eagle Scout, so I spent my entire teenage life going on camping trips. And that part when, the basement part at the end I thought was a little eerie because it's just like, what the fuck is this dude doing standing in the basement with his back? I mean, he could be playing a terrible prank, but the point is, it's like the scariest scene in that movie for me was if these people are out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and nobody knows they're out there, even if it's not a ghost or a demon or whatever the fuck the witch was, the fact that there are people putting their hands on the outside of their tent in the middle of the night and fucking with them is fucked up.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But I think go ahead,
that
Tony.
scared me. And that scared me because a tent is a confined space that does not protect you.
That's true.
It voids your senses. You can't see outside of a tent, so you're already at a disadvantage. And I thought that was a very terrifying scenario. Now, granted, since then they've made, dozens of movies about people camping in the woods and yada, yada, yada. But that was really the first one where I saw that. Right. Now, going off of what you said, I also think that holds true in the sense of, you saying that movie was made 20 years ago, so I think it was revolutionary for its time period. It certainly doesn't hold up. I think I've watched Blair Witch one time since then, and I tried to sit through part 2, which hurt.
That was bad.
Oh, no. My husband made me see it in the theater, and we had to pay actual dollars for it. It was stupid.
Oh, don't get me started on the bullshit I've had to pay money to go see.
You don't have Movie Pass.
I do not yet. And actually, I don't see a lot of movies. There's so many films that I've missed in the theater in the last 2 years that people would kick me for. But the point is just look back at a lot of movies, especially to younger audiences now. I talk to kids about The Shining and Alien, which are two of my favorite movies of all time.
Damn right.
And in my opinion, two of the best horror films ever made.
Agreed.
And people nowadays, kids especially, they're like, fuck those movies. They're boring as piss. And it's like, all right, I get that your attention span is that of a chipmunk. you need to fucking... you need to look at this movie from a different perspective, but kids can't do that. And in a lot of ways, I don't think that movies have held up. Even Halloween, as much as I love the original Halloween with a passion, that is the horror film that up until 15 years ago, when I became an adult and started actually making my own movies, Halloween was the go-to movie where I said, this is my favorite horror film, hands down. That's the movie that made me want to make horror movies. But I saw it on the big screen, I think 2 Halloweens ago, and there's fucking palm trees in the background. There's fucking mountains. I live in Illinois. There's no such thing as palm trees and mountains in Illinois.
Oh, bummer.
And I'm watching this movie, and I'm just totally disenchanted by it. And I've seen it 1,000 times, so maybe that's why I don't think it's as scary. And it is. It's still terrifying. I think that Halloween is creepy. Carpenter is an amazing filmmaker.
It's visceral, It kind of affects your senses in a different way. It's almost something that you have an intuitive sense of, almost like you get a little bit of a pit in your stomach. I think the music largely lends itself to that.
Yeah.
Totally. And the way he shot it, one of the coolest things about that movie, if you really pay attention, is that his shot sequence gets progressively more confined as the film progresses. Yep. You become claustrophobic and more tight because he shoots at tighter angles throughout the movie.
Right.
Which I think is really cool.
The thing I love about Halloween, and I find that it is lacking in most modern studio-driven horror movies nowadays, is that the lack of jump scares in the original Halloween. There really aren't a whole lot. You don't have that music bed that rises, stops. You get dead silence, and then, there's a loud noise, there's a monster, and that's it. I have not watched a lot of modern horror movies because I see the prevalence of jump scares, and it pisses me off. I just think that's lazy. Yeah. That's lazy filmmaking, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, but the reason why is because Hollywood has gone the way of movies being created, or not created by, but produced, and ultimately, if a movie's produced by somebody, whoever's putting the money in is the one making the decisions. Right. And typically who's putting the money in is lawyers and producers who are businessmen, not creatives, No. And I don't negate the reasoning behind that. The reason I think is stems from back in the late 70s when filmmakers had pretty much complete freedom and they abused it. And this is kind of the Heaven's Gate situation with Michael Cimino, which if my editor was on this podcast right now with me, he would go on for an hour about that, similar to your Blair Witch tangent. But that being said, that's just unfortunately part of what Hollywood has become. Hollywood's business. It's about quantity, not quality.
Right.
and I've experienced that firsthand, and a lot of other filmmakers do, and it's just something that you have to learn to accept if you want to go that way. Right. You know, you talk to, I'm imagining if you got any independent filmmaker on, even guys like Ty West, who, and I fucking hate Ty West because he's such a fucking asshole, but watch, in 5 years he's gonna be like making fun of me for saying that about him. We're gonna be best friends. But like it's just the 2 times I've met him, he's a fucking prick. You know, he's a selfish, cocky prick, and I don't appreciate people who have an attitude like that. Because if somebody came up to me and said, like you 20 minutes ago, you said, "I love It's My Party and I'll die if I want to."
Yeah,
I'm never gonna take that for granted. Thank you for loving my shitty first movie.
It was okay. It was not shitty. It was not shitty. I've always said this, and I've told people this. Like when I was talking to Lane and John, like unfortunately my other co-host John isn't here. But when I was telling him I was getting you, fuck him. Hey, I told him.
No one would laugh at that harder than John either. He was
I
gonna
told
love
him
that.
when he said he couldn't make it. I was like, oh, I see how it is. But
you're missing out, John.
He is.
Fuck you.
He's gonna die.
Oh, but I've always said, Tony, that I've as an independent filmmaker myself, I've always seen you as the benchmark of where you can go. You know, so while you say that your movie is your shitty first film, I look at that as the first stepping stone into where you're at now, where now you've got the movie like The Rake that's coming out. Am I correct? It's being distributed partially by Sony?
Yeah, it's being distributed through Sony, yeah. So
that's amazing. Like that shitty feature film you made, you know, so many years ago has now led you to this. So that's why I love that movie, because I see where I was. Now, I've made movies that were like that too. But I get it, you know, that you've got that first film that's just like, yeah, I made every mistake in the book, or I was a little, you know, my reach couldn't, get my, you know, goals or something like that. And I get that, but I still love that movie. I love the fact that it was original. You know, you paid homage to the films that you were a fan of, and you created this cool idea of the choose your own adventure movie, which I've never seen that before. And that's why I love it.
Anything that's choose your own adventure is my favorite.
His movie literally is a DVD
I mean,
has
like,
choose your own adventure.
I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that's an awesome way to kind of like introduce both like audience collaboration as well as, you know, kind of expressing every idea you have for a project. I mean, it's awesome.
Well, Lane, you complimenting that makes you my favorite. So
yay!
Yay! No, I appreciate that, Brian. I mean, people fucking telling me that I'm a benchmark, that is insanely humbling, first of all. But you know, it's funny because it's really all in how you measure success. I do not consider myself a success. Maybe it's because I'm always trying to push myself to be better, but I have to admit that to me, success also slightly rides on financial success.
Right.
And I have not made money off my movies. I do not know if I will make money off of any of these 3 features coming out, including the one being distributed by Sony. And it's really unfortunate that you that I've been doing this now for almost 15 years professionally. I have 4 feature-length movies under my belt, and so in an essence, yes, I feel very successful and proud of the fact that I've managed to continue creating, and that the quality has gotten progressively better over the years, mostly because of the people I surround myself with. But that being said, it's not allowing me the opportunity to do it full time. I mean, today was the second day of my new job, which is essentially a full-time job. And it's like, because I'm 38 years old in July and I'm not getting any younger. And, you know, I need to start thinking about the future and about not bartending for the rest of my life full time.
Is that what your new job was, bartending?
No. I am currently a bartender, but my new job is actually working for a municipality.
Okay.
I'm a water operator, so I'm going to be doing overnight shifts, which is cool because I'm a night owl anyway.
Right.
But it's like the fact that I am succumbing to the day-to-day grind like everybody else because the biological clock is ticking is to a small degree it's depressing. But I'm excited. I'm not sad about it or anything. It's just, without trying to sound cocky, and I apologize if I do, a lot of people come to me, especially in the last couple of months, because these movies are starting to actually get to the point where they're coming out. So people are hearing about that and they're getting excited for me. And I think that's awesome. And I appreciate the positive reinforcement. And that's what everybody does, is they're like, don't give up, keep it up, keep at it. And the people who are close to me know how frustrating and stressful, thus the gray in my beard, it's been over the last 6 years that these 3 movies have been on my plate, but not coming out.
Right.
And so it's nice to hear the positive reinforcement, but it's like, I don't think that people just understand that. Like, they look at it and say, well, you're successful because you've got all these things coming out. You've got this content that people are going to see and say, I know the guy who made that. But at the end of the day, if it's not paying me any money,
right,
and if it's not getting me any more work, which you're saying that It's My Party got me to this point, but it's not It's My Party that got me to this point. It's me that got me to this point. Okay? It's the work that I've put in over the last 13 years since It's My Party that has gotten me to this point. And I'm now at the point in my life where I can't make a movie for $15,000 anymore. I have to go onward and upward, which means, $1 million. Right. And if I can't find that money myself, I have to hope that someone's going to see one of these movies and come to me and say, we love what you're doing. What's next? And, oh, by the way, we're not going to steal it from you or change it, or whatever. And so it's not easy.
Right.
So I do appreciate what you say, and I appreciate what these other people who have come to me and said, it's cool what you're doing, or congratulations, or don't give up, because all of that is very reinforcing, especially when you're your own worst critic, as most of us artists are.
It's true. I know I'm critical of my own work, but I would say that I like to think that, and this might just be me being naive, that every work we do is a stepping stone to something bigger. We learn from our mistakes, and each one gets us closer to the goal. I mean, ultimately for me, I want to be in the same boat. I have a day job too. I actually have a day job and a night job. I teach in the evening, and I have my 9 to 5. So I absolutely get it. And there is frustration, a lot of frustration, where you're just like, you know what? I'd like to put more effort into putting out content and getting the people together that I know to make something, but it's like, there's not enough time in the day. And between that and family, like you might want to actually see your family every once in a while. You might want to, spend time with friends a little bit, between all of that, it's a grind. And then on top of that, to find, there's not really going to be any reward for that other than, hey, it's out there. I definitely get the frustration, but I mean, I'll join those other people that you've made reference to and say, really just to keep going at it. I mean, I followed you in the films that you've come out with in the past couple of years, and I really think that it is really only a matter of time before you do get to that level, Well,
I mean, I sincerely appreciate that. It means a lot to me that you compliment what we've created, and you haven't even seen the 3 most recent projects.
No, I've seen the trailers, and that's enough. But I am eager to see the new projects.
Thanks, but as you were saying, kind of coming off of that, it is still tough because, like, you at least you have your family there to support you, and maybe the trade-off is the family doesn't allot you as much time to be creative. Mm-hmm. But honestly, that's been something that I, have struggled with over the last couple years as well. Is, I've sacrificed a lot in the personal level, in the sense of, I'm single, I don't have children, I don't have a girlfriend or a wife. So it's like, I don't come home to people who are excited to see me and who want to spend time with me. And so as much as people sit and say, well, you got these movies don't cuddle with me and watch a scary movie with me at night, which is what I want to do. Is sit and watch a scary movie with a cute girl, and and so it's that ultimately is that sacrifice that I think a lot of people are not willing to make.
Right.
And I'm at that threshold now where, like I said, I saw an opportunity to get a good paying full-time job that's going to set me up for a future of either being able to finance a film on my own, or, you know, get that cabin in the woods next to the lake so I don't have to talk to people anymore.
That also sounds good.
Oh, doesn't it though? Oh, I can't wait. And so I'm kind of at that point where I'm very comfortable with where I'm at, and I'm very proud of everything that I've accomplished and that the people I care about have accomplished. And I appreciate that people recognize that, such as yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's a very fine line between saying to myself on a daily basis, yep, I'm proud of you, Tony. You know, like, you did a hell of a job, because at the end of the day, I'm happy for what we've created. But if audiences don't like it, it doesn't matter, you know, and, you know, people like you, I might have 1,000 fans. I might have 100 fans. I might have 20,000 fans. At the end of the day, if they don't buy my Blu-rays, if they don't buy the t-shirts, if they don't promote it to their friends and family, if it doesn't perpetuate, all it is just another piece of art that, you know, disappears. And, you know, 50 years from now, shit, my niece and nephews won't even know this shit, you know? Yeah. So, no, but again, I'm certainly not trying to be all downtrodden on it all by any means.
No, I don't. I think if anything, you're being realistic. And 100%. I think that's good. It's good to be realistic. And you know, a lot of people have this idea when you tell them, "Oh, I make movies." They have this idea of glitz and glamour and all that stuff, and they don't realize that there are trade-offs to that. There's trade-offs to everything. But I think with filmmaking especially, there's a trade-off in that, you know, if people don't like your movie, if people don't support you, well, then you really, you know, kind of wasted, you know, your money and not really get anything back. I mean, yeah, you could say, hey, I made a movie, and that's great in of itself, just as someone makes a painting or someone writes a book or something. But I think especially with filmmaking, is because it's so tied with business and the financials of it, and just getting butts and seats to sit there and watch a movie, that you need to have that there, or it almost feels kind of like a loss, you know?
Well, and you have to be a good businessman. And Lane, I'm sorry if we're talking and you're not talking. You need to jump in at some
I'm
point.
listening. But I mean, I don't have too much of anything like, you know, groundbreaking to add. I mean, I agree with you guys about, you know, the situation now. I'm more of a positive person, which is like less of a realist. So, I mean, you know, I think if there's any kind of boon or reward to the work, you know, I mean, I think that's a great thing. But I mean, you've already said that, you know, that you're appreciative of that too. So that's, you know, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And I'm certainly, I mean, I've had my moments where I'm not positive, and I'm definitely a realist by default. Thanks to my father. I think I got it in the genes. But no, I'm definitely in a good spot, and I'm very positive about everything and where we're at with our projects and where I'm at in my life. It's just, again, being realistic. You have to put it into perspective, and like we've been saying, is, you know, what is the saying? Is the juice worth the squeeze? You know,
I like that. I don't think I've heard that before.
I've heard that before. It was from a movie.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
it.
It was that was it was the gangster movie or something.
No, I think it might have been The Girl Next Door.
Yes. Timothy Oliphant.
Yep.
Girl Next Door. Thank you. But so with that, like what we were talking about a minute ago was like I look at Ellie Church and Bandit Pictures. Okay, Ellie and I have worked together on 2 projects now. I love Ellie to death, and her team, I really look up to them in the sense of what they have managed to do in terms of promoting their work. Mm. But what that showcases is that promoting your work, it's one thing to make a movie, to come up with a concept from inception and then take it to completion by orchestrating a team of people, finding locations, raising the money, shooting it, all this stuff. And then you have to do all the post-production, editing it, composing music, yada, 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 ad nauseum. But then from there, then you have to promote it and sell it, which is a whole nother. I don't even want to call that a whole nother baby, because at that point that's just a fucking, it's shit that you have to know business in order to be good at. And they do that very well. But I look at the amount of effort that their whole team puts into promoting their work and creating their Indiegogo campaigns for their Blu-ray pre-sales and stuff. And it's like, they're successful because clearly they're making 1 or 2 movies a year and they're raising $40,000-$50,000 in pre-sales of their discs to fund the creation of the discs and potentially fund the next film to a degree. But look at all the work that goes into raising that amount of money. And that's not a lot of money. If they were selling enough discs to make even $200,000 off of each movie, then I'd say, okay, I want to take Bandit Pictures 101, and you guys need to show me how to do it because I've been selling independent movies since 2008, and I have not cleared even close to the profits that you guys are, But again, there's that trade-off. Do you have the time to invest in not only creating the film, but then promoting and selling the film? And even if you do, is it going to be lucrative? I do not have a beautiful, outspoken girl such as Ellie Church as my poster child for my projects. She's in 2 of my movies, but I can't expect her to promote my films because she's not directly related to them as a producer like she might be with her projects. Right. And so that's something that helps. And again, I'm not trying. If women come onto this thing and say, oh, this guy's a total sexist, I am far from a sexist. I'm just saying that, especially to a horror audience, I've been to enough horror conventions to know what sells a horror movie. Okay. And I'm being realistic.
We've had this conversation with a friend of ours, Len Kapuzinski, and he basically said the same thing, that especially in the horror genre, it's unfortunately the fact that sex does sell in these films.
Yes.
However, I've always felt that there is an artful way to do it, and then there is an exploitive way to do it.
Of course.
I think the way that you have to do it is, does it support the narrative of the film? I was watching your short film, The Muck, today, and there's nudity in it, but I think it was necessary considering the narrative. She's in the bathtub. That's going to happen. You're going to see that,
And I really appreciate you pointing that out specifically because that really is and always has been my intention. I'm uncomfortable shooting sex scenes and nudity because it's a group of people staring at a naked person. Or naked people doing dirty things and, or pretending to do dirty things. And, to me, The Muck was, as much as the idea became a sexual idea, because I am a firm believer that horror is about boobs and blood. That's just what the genre is. Sex sells, especially in the horror genre, as does violence. And so I went from The Muck originally being the Merc, which was going to be a boy fishing and getting eaten by something that comes out of the pond, a la The Raft, to a girl coming home from working out or cheerleading practice or whatever and taking a bath and the monster coming out of the bathtub drain and killing her. But despite the fact that the premise is based on a sexual or it could be construed as a sexual situation, I did everything that I could, and my cinematographer, Robert Patrick Stern, we did everything we could to avoid exploiting her nudity. Right. Because it's not about her being naked. It's about her being attacked and killed, And that's how it is with all my films. Now, High on the Hog is obviously significantly different side of the spectrum because High on the Hog is a grindhouse exploitation film. Right. Starring one of the most iconic horror actors out there, so it is naturally going to be more sexual in orientation, but again, that's kind of a separate.
Well, as I said, it fits the narrative you're trying to tell. You're trying to make a homage to grindhouse exploitative film, so that should be in there. It fits what the narrative is.
Exactly.
But I It's My Party. I always go back to that one. That one had nudity in it, and it didn't really seem like it was exploitative at all. It just seemed like that was what happened there. Now, Tom Savini's reaction, since I've met him, not surprised. You bring up Ty West, my person's Tom Savini. Now you have an interesting history with him in that you went to a school.
Yeah.
Right. Can you speak to that experience? What did you get out of that?
Well, and let me just finish the last comment by saying just that, like it's not always just about sex. We just happen to be talking about a beautiful girl or a beautiful woman selling something, and that being a means of selling something. I've told my friend Lainey Carner, who is the little girl in Skeletons in the Closet, that she's a big horror movie fan too. So she's like my adopted daughter, and I've basically told her, when we are selling Skeletons in the Closet and you're the star of it, you will be at the horror conventions with me. Because you better believe when she's standing in front of my vendor table and she points to a person and says, "Have you seen my movie?" And they say, "No, what's your movie?" And then she points to the TV behind my booth, and it's her on the television, doing her thing in Skeletons. You better believe they're going to buy a copy of the Blu-ray from this beautiful little 10-year-old girl who's got the best personality in the world. So it's all about finding a way of selling your stuff. And so it's not just about sex sells, but yeah, so in 2004, I moved out to Pittsburgh for 2 years to go to Savini Special Effects School. I had basically been telling people since I was 10, 11 years old that I wanted to be a movie director. And, you get to that point where it's kind of shit or get off the pot. And I am not a talker. I'm a doer. I fucking hate people who talk the talk and don't walk the walk. Boy, I'm catchphrase king tonight.
Juice is worth the squeeze and can't talk the talk.
So many t-shirts.
Yeah. So anyways, I kind of got sick of being at the point in my life where I was in my early 20s. And it's like, I keep telling people I want to direct movies, but I'm not really doing anything to make that happen. And I didn't want to go to film school because I already had a bachelor's degree. And it just seemed like a waste of time and money to go and shoot with a Bolex at the time. And, it's just dumb. So I ended up one way or another getting out to Savini School because I figured I've always done artistic stuff. I appreciate and would love to learn more about practical special effects. And it's a really good foot in the door because I want to focus on the horror genre. And I think that one of the biggest problems with horror filmmakers, directors in particular, and producers, is they do not understand the concept of practical special effects, what it entails, the amount of work that goes into it, and time. And so to me, it was a win-win situation. I can learn the art and potentially make a career out of it, which I have not. I've done some work, but I'm not really proud of it, and I don't promote myself as an effects artist. If anything, effects coordinator, where I have a team of people who I coordinate and they do the work because they're more artistically talented than me. But yeah, it was a great foot in the door. And while I was out there, there was an old funeral home that was kind of abandoned. And, a couple of guys that I was friends with were talking about, let's try and shoot a movie in there. And I had wanted to do a music video to Thriller, because I thought, all of us, and I've told this story a million times, I sound like Savini when he talks about how he was in Vietnam and used to look through the camera because he was a war photographer, and he'd see all the blood and violence through the camera lens, so it desensitized him, and yada, yada, yada. But so we were going to these classes, and you take still photos of your makeup when you're done with it. And it's like, I'm like, this is stupid, because as much as we're learning this cool stuff, we're taking pictures of it, and this is supposed to be implemented on a moving picture camera.
Right.
Sure.
And we're not showing the action of our makeup. So it might look great if the actor's not moving, but what happens when the dude tries to emote, when he tries to smile or grin or show his teeth, or frown? What happens to the makeup? And so I thought, well, I tried to get together a group of 6 different teams of people, and each of us was going to create a full body creature suit, and each of these creatures was going to converge on this house during a party that these kids were throwing, and we were just going to shoot it at one of the houses on, that the kids were living in at the school. And that was kind of going to be my thing, is let's introduce each of the 6 monsters, introduce the party goers, and then have the monsters converge on the party goers and kill the party goers. And so it's like, I can have 6 of my friends and whoever they want to work with create a monster, and then we can have a group of other people do the practical effects of the death sequences. And it would all be set to Thriller. And it would just be this cool thing that would promote everybody's work. And it was cool in theory, but ultimately nobody wanted to do it because the biggest thing about Savini School is you get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
And I would say 90% of the people, 85% of the people I went to school with didn't do anything while they were going there. All they did was party.
That's disappointing.
Oh, totally. 100%. 100%. And I did my fair share too. I mean, every weekend it was a themed party, if not 2. So, we had the dirty old man schoolgirl party. We had the, God, I'm trying to think of them now, going back and thinking about them all. Jesus. There was like the S&M party.
Oh,
and then obviously they weren't all dirty, but, I'm going to school with a bunch of horror fanatics and, at the time, goth people and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. So I had some of my best friends come from that school, and some of my best memories come from that school. But you have a handful of people who really put in the effort and excelled. A guy I went to school with, Kevin Kirkpatrick, the dude's done everything. He is part of the team that won a Emmy for American Horror Story.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
I was just watching Westworld last night, and his name was in the credits. He was a co-department head, So this dude's doing it and making a living out of it. But not everybody was like Kevin. And so it just became something that it was too much work outside of class for people to want to do.
Right.
So when that fell apart, I kind of said, all right, well, I keep telling people I want to make movies. Why don't I just make a fucking movie? And so that's kind of how It's My Party came about. And I shot that during my last semester at school. And then I graduated, finished shooting it. So I stayed there for another 2 months. And then I moved back to Illinois, where I'm from originally. And I edited the movie and, lived with my mom's house for a few years because I spent my life savings making the movie. Mm-hmm. And again, it's those sacrifices. I broke up with a girl that I've been dating for a long time and thought I was going to marry. And, making It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To was the turning point in my life. And so in a lot of ways, I really appreciate and respect what it did for me. But in a lot of ways, I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me? So that the experience was cool. I mean, again, I got a lot out of it because I put a decent amount in, not necessarily in the effects sense, but I networked and, and I made a movie while I was out there. And I utilized the talent of a lot of the people that I went to school with, a lot of my friends, to help me make the movie. And so it became more of a networking thing for me, right. Which I guess is my producer side coming out a little more than I prefer it to, right. Than the creative, obviously. But yeah, so it was cool. Savini's not really a presence there. I mean,
that's what I've heard. I told you this. Like when I met him, he was just kind of a dick.
Oh yeah,
Brian, we're familiar with your opinion, Tom Savini.
He's just kind of a dick. But I guess, kind of in closing, can you tell me a little bit about the 3 movies that you do have coming out? I mean, the reason I bring it up,
I fucking hate the fact that every podcast I've been on to promote my new projects, we end up talking about everything but the new project.
No, but you got to understand, Tony, this was a great interview. Like, there's a lot here that it is to unpack. I really love it.
So we'll finish strong.
But I want to finish strong because these movies coming out, and I want to make sure that as many people, that I have access to in my audience can hear about these movies and get them.
All right. So, so I've got 3 movies. We don't know when 2 of them are coming out, but we kind of have a rough estimate. So my second feature, High on the Hog, we produced back in 2012. Again, it stars Sid Haig, Joe Estevez, and the late Robert Z'Dar, who was awesome to work with. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to work with him before he passed away. It's a grindhouse exploitation film. Sid Haig plays Big Daddy, who is kind of the patriarch of this Charles Manson type family, but they're not violent people. They're actually the good guys. So it's not like a Devil's Rejects ripoff. And if anybody fucking says that to me, I'm gonna punch. My executive producer Kevin was putting it together and hired me to direct the movie. And so it wasn't my concept or anything, but it really was awesome because it really became my film in a lot of ways as we were putting it together, and a lot of the people on it became my family. And so it's basically about Sid and his family of girls and guys who he's kind of taken in from one way or another. They all live on his farm that has been in his family for years. And, the government tries to take it away from him, by raising taxes, all that shit. And so he ends up having to start growing marijuana. Mm-hmm. And the government finds out about it and tries to come in and take the land and arrest him and everything. And so he fights back. And so it's a really cool movie. It's a lot of fun. It is batshit crazy. The edit will probably induce some seizures in the audience. I'm not gonna lie. But it's a lot of fun, like I said, and it's got the claymation in it. It's got lots of sex and violence and profanity and Sid Haig and a lot of smoking weed. And it's just a really fun movie that I hold very close to my heart because of how much love and effort went into it by myself and everybody that worked on it. Cool. So that we're in the process of I guess getting it to a distributor. I guess the deliverables are being put together. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that'll be out sometime in the next, hopefully, few months. But obviously people can go to Scotchworthy.com and get updated on that. That's Scotchworthy, like a bottle of scotch, and worthy like we are not worthy, all one word. But otherwise then, my third feature is The Rake, which is a psychological thriller sandwiched in a monster movie, is how I kind of put it.
Yeah, the trailer's intense.
Thank you very much. And the trailer doesn't even have the cool stuff in it, like the monster. So we produced that back in 2015, and we had a team of people from LA come out and basically produce the movie for us. And so that's one of those things where, like I told you earlier, you have to determine, how do you want to do something? Do you want to go completely independent and rely on your own avenues and commodities to make something happen, or do you want to bring in outside people and have them help, do something, but in turn, you lose a lot of ownership. You become a partner, and ultimately, in the position that I'm accustomed to, which is director, where you're at the helm, you're the captain steering the ship. In that case, it wasn't necessarily the deal. I was more of a piece in the puzzle. And so it'll be interesting to see how people feel about that movie when it comes out.
Definitely.
I'm excited about it because a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it. Again, like I said, at the core, it's a really good story about some awesome characters that my co-writer, Jeremy Silva, developed really, really well in the script, which is partially what attracted the team from LA to be a part of it, along with them seeing the Muck short film. We got some awesome actors involved. Rachel Melvin, who was in Dumb and Dumber 2, and she's in Sleepy Hollow now. And cool. She was on Zombievers. She was one of the stars of that. And then Shanae Grimes Beach, who was in 90210 and has done a whole bunch of shit. And, we got Joe Nunez, who was in all like Superbad and all those movies. So it's really cool to have something like that coming out that, is a little more of the Hollywood avenue.
Sure.
But like I said, it's not something I'm accustomed to. I don't know if it's something I'll do again. unless parameters are different. But it was a good experience to learn from, regardless.
That's good.
And again, at the core, awesome talent from the actors, and God, the special effects in that movie are just absolutely phenomenal. The monster in the Rake, if nothing else, watch The Rake is an 80-minute movie. If you can't dedicate 80 minutes to seeing, not sounding like a cocky asshole, but one of the coolest monsters, practical effects monsters I've seen in a movie in a long time, you're really not giving yourself the credit as a horror fan. The guy who edited the movie, Sam Bauer, edited Donnie Darko.
Wow!
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was pretty cool to have him, his accolade, be a part of it. But the whole reason, the thing that attracted him to the movie was the monsters. So again, if that means anything to anybody, just give yourself the credit of as a horror fan of sitting through the 80 minutes and at least seeing the monster do what it does best throughout the whole movie.
Very cool.
Nice.
And then and then Skeletons in the Closet. I got too many movies. So then Skeletons in the Closet is actually an amalgamation of we've been producing since 2012 as well, this movie called Chop Shop. And Chop Shop was originally, not the chop, but Chop
It's
Shop.
not the Chop Shop. That was the difference.
Yes. So Chop Shop was originally an idea by my co-producer, Ben Lewandowski, who I've worked with on a handful of projects now. He edited High on the Hog, and so he and I collaborate a lot. Dude's crazy talented. He's batshit fucking crazy, but he's crazy talented. And the craziness is on account of Red Bull and cigarettes, but what good editor is not addicted to Red Bull, coffee, and cigarettes?
I'm addicted to coffee, not Red Bull or cigarettes.
Yeah, well,
I second the coffee.
digress. So it was his brainchild where he wanted to basically put together, and this was right after VHS came out and was really popular, and so he said, well, why don't we get together a group of Illinois or Wisconsin-based, Midwestern filmmakers, and each of us make a 25-minute short film, put them together and make a feature. So that's what Chop Shop was, and so we had 4 of us who all made a short film. And after after a year, we did a wraparound segment that kind of tied all the movies together. And so we started calling it Chop Shop, and it ultimately became something that, not everybody could agree. When you've got 4 different film directors on something who are used to, again, controlling their projects, it's difficult for everybody to find a common ground. And so we ultimately disbanded the project, and Ben and I always kind of stuck together with our 2 films, and we're always like, what are we going to do with them? Do we distribute them as 2 shorts, together? So it's like, here's 50 minutes, on a DVD and sell it at conventions, or do we go our own separate ways? And so we've tossed around a handful of different ideas, and then I've always had this concept in my head called Skeletons in the Closet, which is basically a combo of Elvira meets Tales from the Crypt, where you've got the widow, played by Ellie Church, and she has murdered her husband, Charlie, by poisoning him. And she keeps his dead body in the basement, a la Norman Bates in Psycho with his mother.
Very cool.
The difference is that she goes down to the basement every week, and it's a show. It's a weekly show, kind of like Elvira. And she goes down into the basement every week and watches a horror movie with her husband. And her husband talks to her.
That's
awesome.
That's
very awesome.
So whether or not this is all in her head, or whether or not he is actually a zombie, is up to the audience to determine.
That's cool.
Great.
But so basically, I've had this concept in my head for a long time, and we were able to curtail it to fit the point of where Chop Shop is now the movie that she is watching on her show.
That's neat.
That's
cool. Really neat.
And so then what we did is we added an extra tangent or an extra storyline to that wraparound, where you've got Lainey Carner, as I said, who is this 10-year-old phenomenal actress out of Chicago. And her and her babysitter are watching the show, which is Lainey's favorite show, on one particular Friday night, that a escaped mental patient from across the town just so happens to be on the prowl. And so you've got these girls watching this creepy show, with a killer on the loose. You've got the show where you've got this Alan Peg Bundy dynamic between this husband who's been murdered by his wife and has to spend essentially purgatory hanging out with her, even though she murdered him, you know, and he's a dead body, so he doesn't move. He can talk and he can move his head, but he can't like get up and walk around.
That's awesome.
So he's like stuck there. And then you've got the movie within a movie, which is Chop Shop. And it's really cool because we were able to tie them all together. And like the moments where it might be a little confusing, because like most anthologies, Tales of Halloween or Holidays or VHS or Southbound, you might have a wraparound, but ultimately all the segments are independent of one another. Whereas in this one, you go in and out of each of them a handful of different times. And so we're able to use the wraparounds to explain some of the things that might be confusing within Chop Shop, for example.
Right.
And then, like I said, there's this whole tie-in all together. You know, again, the little girl is the widow's #1 fan. So the babysitter's not exactly a big fan of the show and tends to make fun of it and stuff. You don't want to piss off the widow's #1 fan. Because what do kids tend to do to those that they idolize? They embody their idol.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So it's a lot of fun. It's funny. It's scary at moments. It's such it's an 80s horror experience. It all takes place in the 1980s. So it's just a really cool movie. And that's been picked up for distribution.
Awesome.
By Cow Lamp Films, which is a company out of Chicago. And they're looking at a hopeful release of, you know, early fall, September, October. We're keeping our fingers crossed for a small theatrical run, and then, you know, VOD and physical after that. But I will definitely have, fingers crossed again, I will have all 3 of these new movies, as well as World of Death, as well as A Chance in Hell, as well as It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To, available for sale this fall at conventions and from my website. So
that's awesome. What is your website again?
Scotchworthy.com.
Okay, cool.
Scotchworthy.com.
Well, I got,
and we're on all the social media too. You know, Scotchworthy's on Instagram and Facebook. Those are what I use most. I don't really frequent Twitter because Twitter's annoying.
Yeah, Twitter is annoying. It's a necessary evil, unfortunately, but it's annoying. Well, I got to tell you, this has been a hell of an interview. Great reconnecting with you. Really great hearing your, you know, journey as a filmmaker, pitfalls, perils, and then also the successes too. So I really look forward to seeing what you do next. I look forward to seeing these movies coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for coming on, man.
This is great.
Thanks, guys, for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was good talking to you again, brother. And Lainey, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, same.
Cool. And John missed out big time.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
That fucking fucker.
Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epiccastnetwork.com. You can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Send us a rate, send us a review. Also, be sure to check out our monthly newsletter, Psychos Nation, and catch a new episode available every Sunday.
Epicast.